Howdy, welcome to Jim's Table Topics, July 2019, hashtag Walkaway and other adventures. Yeah, the adventures like chasing the DCAT bag across the Caribbean. Yep, beautiful down there. But of course it's summertime here, it's July, it's hot. But at any rate, few Trump sign holders, no new taxes, and before you know it, it'll be voting time. So here we go. Without any further ado, nice cool pineapple drinks are always good. So again, let's go to Jim's Table Topics, July 2019, hashtag Walkaway and other adventures. Let the show begin. Well, good evening and welcome to the July 2019 version of Jim's Table Topics. And yes, it's been a hot few days. It's technically right now it's July 15th. Okay, we got a show, mostly video clips from Fox and a couple of YouTube clips. Actually, they were all on YouTube. Just that a couple of them were from Fox. Okay, but basically, this month's show is going to focus on hashtag Walkaway and other similar adventures. Okay. We just need to focus on what's going on in the culture today. I know that sometimes I do ramble on and I talk a little quickly, fastly, and I need to slow it down a little. I watch some of these clips on YouTube and I go, boy, I gotta slow it down. But at any rate, the message is the same whether I say it quickly, slowly, in perfect cadence. I mean, all these broadcasters go to school, they all sound exactly the same, and each lie, which we've proven time and time again, we've shown 25 clips from 25 different states, several different times. They say the exact same thing, the exact same way. They might throw in one or two little extra adjectives, but the bottom line is the same. They follow the narrative. They follow the narrative. And again, it's the narrative that is, it's a lie, and they're not telling us the truth. In fact, well, we'll get into that a little more at the rest of the show, but basically yesterday was Saturday, the 14th, July 14th or 13th, and they had a rally at the steps of the State House, but it was never really publicized in the news, never saw a bit. I don't watch the news anyway, but I watched it and I never saw anything. They may have shown it on one or two, but there was no big, rah-rah, oh, look at these people that come together to find out why this man still was driving illegally and killed the 7 Jihad motorcycle groups up in New Hampshire because the RMV failed to follow through on their practices and procedures, their policies. Usually people get fired when they don't follow practice, policies, procedures, but when you're in a bureaucratic system, I think they call, actually the pastor said this at the pulpit today. It was kind of funny. He said, yeah, if you lie to the government, it's a felony, but if the government lies to you, it's just politics. So it's just politics, folks, that's all. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so here we go. We're going to talk about hashtag Walkaway and other things that are similar to that. But before we do that, we will go into our spiritual moment. I really got to focus on being more spiritual, less worldly, less political. And it's because the world is not following God's plan right now. And that's all I want to just wave the flag to say, folks, don't believe what you see and what you hear because they're not showing or telling you the truth. You need to find it yourself. You're not going to find it in a 6-minute flip on, going through your phone apps and things like that. Swipe left, swipe swipe. After 6 seconds, that's about all people look at. So I'm told. Okay, so our spiritual moment today is going to focus on the Our Father, which basically the Our Father is a prayer that a lot of Christians recite at church service and they say on their own, but we're supposed to pray like that. It's verbatim right from the Bible. It's in Matthew chapter 6 and we'll just start at verse 8, and then I'll read down to verse 14. So, but at any rate, that's where we'll focus right now. In this manner, therefore, pray, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For yours is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. For if you forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. So there you have it, folks. We need to focus on being a little bit more forgiving and understanding, and not so vitriolic as the culture and the press and the fake news whips everyone into these frenzies. But without further ado, to let you know I'm not the only one, we're going to slide from our spiritual moment, God have mercy on us all, and listen to this guy who has a new hashtag Walkaway, made a video. Let's see what he has to say, John Morrison, and we'll get back at you. So here's the video. Walking away. Hashtag it.
Well, I'm not one to join a movement, but maybe I ought to take a stab at the hashtag Walkaway video. Who knows? Maybe I can encourage somebody else to face the slings and arrows and get the hell away from toxic progressives. And hey, it sure beats dancing next to a moving car or dumping ice water over my head. So let's get into it. My folks were Republicans, but not really political. I don't recall a single political discussion in our home when I was growing up. I vaguely remember that they voted for Goldwater and Nixon and Reagan, but they didn't put signs in the yard or bumper stickers on the station wagon. Any political ideas I picked up just seeped into me through the culture, mostly music. And they came from the left. Bob Dylan put some into me. John Lennon put some into me. Neil Young did too with his songs Ohio and Southern Man. And anyway, the natural state for a smart, rebellious kid is to adopt whatever his parents don't believe. I left home in 1973 and followed my older hippie cousin to Hawaii. I lived in a series of places, mostly communally. I picked up some more lefty ideas there, but it was a fairly benign, new agey type of thing. When I drifted back to California, it was the late 70s, early 80s, and I wanted to be a singer-songwriter. I got involved with drugs, I hung out with rock bands, I watched as cocaine took hold and Los Angeles descended into moral chaos. But I never really connected that to any debate about values. It's easy to just ignore politics, and that's what I did. I voted Democrat when I bothered to vote. But it wasn't because I'd really thought a lot about the issues. I had friends who'd gone to college and they were all Democrats. I figured they must know something I didn't know. Saturday Night Live mocked Reagan as a greedy warmonger, and who was I to question that? Jackson Browne said that nuclear energy was a threat to the planet, and that was good enough for me. Maybe he saw the China syndrome on the same day I did. There were a few places along the way where I started to suspect that I was aligned with the wrong people. One was the Clarence Thomas hearings. I watched that circus on TV and my BS meter went off hour after hour. I just knew that this was a witch hunt. The Democrats hated Clarence Thomas. It started to dawn on me that the Democrats thought they owned black Americans. He was being punished for escaping the plantation. Feminism had completely taken over in California. I tiptoed around women like every other guy I knew. But when Clinton was exposed for taking advantage of an unpaid intern, something that feminists would have called rape if a Republican was involved, I saw that the Democrats' concern for women was as fake as their concern for African Americans. Bill Clinton got a total pass, and to this day, Monica Lewinsky is still being slut-shamed. It dawned on me gradually that the left was a group with no moral center, no values to hold on to. Their core philosophy seemed to be opposing conservatives, and destroying anything that conservatives held to be sacred. Progressives were dedicated to dismantling the societal structures by which they themselves had been raised. And oh, how they could hate. I'm talking about the hard left here, not moderate liberals. They hated the Bible Belt. They hated big business. They hated the military. They hated our white male founders. They hated police. They hated the Constitution. They hated capitalism, even though many of them were trying to get rich and famous. The drugs finally got me, and I hit rock bottom. So I started painting houses. And now I saw firsthand what it was like to work for a living, really work. And now I began to meet a lot of conservative people because they owned the houses I painted. And none of them matched the description of conservatives that I'd formed in my mind. Most were fine people. So I lived in this disconnect, hearing how evil Republicans were, while seeing that most of them were good, honest people. And gradually, through thousands of hours of hard, sweaty work and becoming a husband and father, I developed a real appreciation for the no excuses, never give up people who built this country. And then suddenly, the internet. And a few years later, Facebook. My first several hundred Facebook friends were musicians, mostly singer-songwriters. And this was where I found out just how nasty they can be. The first real argument I had online was about abortion. This was my position at the time. Hey, I'm pro-choice, but if I did believe in my heart that life began at conception and thought that 1 million children a year were being casually killed, I would have to be against abortion. That would be my only moral choice. Oh my God, did the shit hit the fan. I had never experienced anything like the gang beating doled out to me on that day by people who never stop bragging about how compassionate they are. I was unfriended and blocked by a few dozen people for the crime of trying to understand the motivations of people I didn't even agree with. I started to poke around and look at the assumptions I'd always held from another angle. I found Thomas Sowell and Walter Williams and learned about the much better shape Black Americans had been in before the social engineers of the left saved them. They also taught me basic economics, and I started to really understand the virtues of capitalism. But old habits die hard. I was still on Team Blue in 2008. I voted for Barack Obama. I even performed in an Obama fundraiser deep in the Hollywood Hills. Talk about your limousine liberals. After Obama won and he accepted a Nobel Prize for nothing, I noticed how conflicted the man was about free enterprise. I watched him squander $800 billion of our money on a stimulus package that did virtually nothing. I saw him force through a healthcare law that I knew would slap the middle class. And what about that buggy $2 billion website made in Canada? I watched him stiff blue-collar Americans for the shovel-ready jobs he promised, and instead talk millions more kids into student loan debt and useless degrees. And I realized that he was just performing the role of first black president for which he'd been groomed. At this point, I started stuffing clothes into a backpack and plotting my escape. I had cringed as my lefty friends fell like jackals on Sarah Palin and her family the very day they learned that she existed. I was sickened as Jon Stewart got rich by carefully editing videos to make Republicans look stupid or evil. In 2012, I did the research and realized that Mitt Romney was no more a vulture capitalist than liberal Saint Warren Buffett. They're in the same business. I learned that the rich, far from shirking their fair share, paid for virtually all of the social programs in this country, and everything else too. When I backed Romney, I came out of the closet as a brand new conservative. Trust me, in California, that's a lot tougher than coming out as gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It was all over for me on the left, and I got my hiking boots out from under the bed. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Dennis Prager's radio show in Los Angeles. I spent a lot of hours with a paintbrush in my hand and Dennis in my ears. He started out as a liberal Democrat too. Eventually the musical gigs all dried up, and one by one I realized that, with a few notable and noble exceptions, my lefty friends had lost all use for me, other than as a chew toy at cocktail parties. And so I pulled on the boots, grabbed the backpack, and I walked the hell away. A few stressful years later, with the streets still full of hysterical people in vagina costumes, Jason Seiler and I formed Blue Collar Logic on Facebook and quickly amassed 11 million views and 80,000 follows for our common sense political videos. We take on all the things that drove me away from the left: the identity politics and victim Olympics, the determination to deny the basics of human nature, the fear-mongering, the virtue signaling, the manipulation of language to set traps and ruin people, the race baiting, the silencing of dissent. And since we're on the topic, Due to organized harassment by radical feminists and Zuckerberg's sneaky reset of both algorithms and our viewers' own preferences, that channel is all but dead. And we've moved to YouTube. Let's hope we get a fair shake here. So, as you see, I had no choice but to leave the left. Is the right one big hug fest? Do we all gather beneath the sunset and sing patriotic songs like at the end of a Dinesh D'Souza movie? No. There's a lot of jerks over here too. But at the end of the day, conservatives are trying to hold on to the values that made us great and kept us free. Trying to keep the individual as the basic unit of civilization. Progressives are trying to force us into a massive collective that they will control through the power of government. My choice was clear, and I'm still walking. If this rings any bells with you, give it a thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe to Blue Collar Logic on YouTube and keep in touch. The next few years will not be easy. It's important that we communicate with reasonable people like ourselves, including moderate liberals, that we try not to come off as angry and hostile. We need to become skilled at explaining why we walked away. And with a little luck and a little bit of providence, we might just get this great country back on track. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, subscribe to our channel and then click the little bell to get notifications.
Mainstream media has largely ignored the Clinton Foundation and how on numerous occasions they've accepted foreign donations that have coincided with political favors. There has been a media that's been investigating and reporting the truth the entire time. Do you know what that media is? It's the Epoch Times. That's right, even when the mainstream media has been calling the Uranium One scandal a theory that's been debunked, we've been investigating and uncovering the truth of the Uranium One deal, or how Russia came to control 20% of America's uranium capacity while Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. And in fact, besides this, what we did was create an infographic detailing 7 documented examples of when foreign donations to the Clintons and their foundation coincided with political favors. Here it is right here, the Clinton Foundation pay-to-play infographic put out by the Epoch Times. This thing is awesome. It's 2 feet by 2 feet, and it documents the flow of money into the Clinton Foundation, as well as the different agents, players, and companies who are behind the money, as well as the subsequent US government actions that benefited the donors. So this thing is really good. In researching it, we didn't stretch the truth even a little bit. Everything is fact-based, everything is properly sourced, and take a look at this. This is the Uranium One part. We thought that this was so important, and on the back of this infographic, we created a second infographic detailing just the Uranium One deal, the different governments and government officials who were involved, as well as how they interrelate to one another. This thing is really important because not only does it document a potential giant US national security risk, it involves alleged bribery, kickbacks, extortion, and money laundering at the highest levels of the US nuclear industry. And it involves a timeline of events so you can get extremely clear on what happened. And now you can get both of these infographic posters delivered to your home absolutely free of charge. You don't even need to pay the cost of shipping. Just click on that button below and try the Epoch Times newspaper for a month. Get real news delivered to your home, and we'll send you this poster absolutely free of charge. That way, not only can you stay really informed, but you can hang this poster up, study it yourself, share it with your friends, your family, your neighbors, and your community, and learn the truth about some of the biggest political scandals in American history. Just click on that button below.
Welcome back. So, again, that was Dave Morrison, Walking Away, hashtag. As you can see, there's a lot of things that are going on that, you know, I'm not the only one. I'm trying to tell you that the media and the press are not, and our leaders, Republicans and Democrats, the deep state are not on our side. They're not telling us the truth, and they're trying to just overrun the Constitution. And again, the Constitution is pretty clear. This book, it's an experiment, George Washington said, and you'll see that later when we get to the Ronald Reagan section here. But basically, you know, the country is built on the Constitution, and Benjamin Franklin said, only a virtuous people are capable of freedom. As nations become corrupt and vicious, they have more need of masters. That's Benjamin Franklin, so that's pretty clear. And John Adams said, our Constitution is made for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. Okay, so that's where we're going with Antifa and everyone else. I mean, they give them press. They should be arrested. They're domestic terrorists, but they're not really. And we'll hear that from Rush coming up. But because I have so much video, I only got like 2 minutes between each, so I guess I do have to pick up the pace. So I'm already down to a minute 30. I got 30 seconds left to introduce the next clip, which is, in no uncertain terms, Judge Janine, who was on The View. Whoopi Goldberg got a little upset with Judge Janine, and they had some words, and before you know it, Judge Janine was off the set, and you never saw what really happened. But Judge Janine on Fox and Friends will tell you what you didn't see and what you should know about what goes on behind the scenes. So, to the tape, Judge Janine.
Bring in Judge Janine Perry. You already saw her, host of Justice with Judge Janine, and author of the new book, great new book, Liars, Leakers, and
That's right,
Trolls.
and she was over on The View yesterday to promote it. How did it go? Watch this.
I'm 62 years old. There have been a lot of people in office that I didn't agree with, but I have never, ever seen anything like this. I've never seen anybody whip up such hate. I've never seen anybody be so dismissive. Here's my question for you, because you talk about, I don't have Trump derangement. Let me tell you what I have. Okay. I have a lot of, I'm tired of people starting a conversation with Mexicans or liars and rapists.
Well, but you know
you
what's
said
horrible?
that
When people
it's
who
okay.
shouldn't be here end up murdering the children of American citizens.
You know what's horrible?
What's horrible
when the president of the United States whips up people to beat the hell out of people.
No.
Say goodbye.
Say goodbye, and then on the other side of that timeout, Judge Janine was no longer in that chair. What happened?
Okay, so I'm invited to The View to talk about my new book, Liars, Leakers, and Liberals, The Case Against the Anti-Trump Conspiracy. And, you know, the publisher said, you want to go to The View? I said, of course I'll go to The View. I like Whoopi. I like them. I mean, I have no problem talking about my book. So I go there. And, you know, the first segment was relatively calm. And, you know, I got the transcript. And one of the things I said was, one of the things we need now, we need people to talk to people who ostensibly hate each other. It's time we sat down and had a conversation. And Whoopi, you know, interrupted and said, now? Oh, I'm so glad. But anyway, that was almost prescient. The second segment, after some small talk, I mean, we had, you know, I was making small talk. I was, you know, happy to discuss my book. Right? And then we came back and it was, you know, no holds barred. Whoopi got angry, and what the viewing audience, the television audience, didn't see is that they popped up the cover of my book as she pushed off the desk, you know, unplugged her mic, and then stormed off the set. So I'm there saying, you know, I'm in television. I said, I don't think the segment's over, but I think she just left, Janine. I think it's over. So I take off my own mic, and then you have to go down the stairs. Mm-hmm. I go down the stairs, and she's right there. And I said something like, Whoopi, you know, I spent my whole life fighting for victims, because we had talked about rapes and all that. And she said to me, as she got up in my face, and I read somewhere someone said, well, you should have kept walking. I couldn't walk by her. She was at the bottom of the stairs. She says, F you, F you. And then I said, did you just say F you? And then she said, get the F out of this building, get the F out of this building. So I'm there, and I'm like, okay.
And you didn't do anything to provoke anybody there?
No, you can ask the people that I was with. I mean, she was nuts going off the set, and then when I walked down, and so as I started walking out the building, so this woman is yelling behind me, get the F out of this building. I mean, look, I've been a prosecutor, judge, DA for 30 years. I try murder cases. I can go toe-to-toe with anybody. But that was abuse, and it was sad. It was a sad moment that, you know, she was triggered, and I never understood triggering.
Did she reach out to you afterwards and apologize? I know she apologized to the audience.
She apologized to the audience, not for what she did to me, and they had no idea what happened when I walked off the set.
You haven't heard from anyone from
Yeah, no, a producer called, and yesterday it was nonstop radio and television. I was promoting the book. I haven't had a chance to return the call, but the producer did call.
You know, so, I mean, what... Is this just, did they hate the president so much that you were the person, you've been a supporter of him, so they're coming at you?
Well, I certainly think that may be it. And, I tried to answer the question, just like you would answer the questions. And I said, it's another audience. It's the ability to at least talk about some of the good things that the president has done and the problems that I talk about in Liars, Leakers, and Liberals, which is the corruption at the highest levels of the Department of Justice and the FBI. And I have hundreds of footnotes in my book. It's an easy read. I mean, don't get scared by the footnote comment. But, I make it a clear, it's clear what happened. Read the book. They didn't want to know.
I got a question for you. They're watching this over at ABC right now. If you were looking at camera one, what would you say to Whoopi Goldberg right now?
I guess I would say to Whoopi, I've always liked you, Whoopi, and I don't understand where the anger comes from. I went to have a conversation, and I wasn't allowed to have a conversation, and I didn't deserve to be thrown out. I really, we can't treat people like that. You just can't. We can disagree, but we need to be able to talk about it.
Judge, have you ever thrown anyone off your set?
No.
When you ask someone to come on as a guest, I feel like you owe them the common courtesy, because a book tour is hard. You're going from place to place to place, and you're trying to speak to their audiences, and you're saying yes to invitations, and you have to make choices as to what shows you're going to go on. And for them to treat you that way, you're my family. I'm sorry that you were treated that way, and I think as a guest in someone's home,
That's
it's just
what
the
it
wrong
is.
way to treat someone.
Yeah,
It's not fair.
yeah, you're invited into their home, and to be thrown off like that was it was disheartening. America is better than this. America is the place where you have free speech. But what happened yesterday was a microcosm of what's happening in the nation.
Yes.
And
Shout down and shut down.
yeah,
as
we don't
opposed
want to hear from you.
Yep.
All right, once again, the book, brand new. It's what everybody's talking about. Leakers, Liars, and Liberals. Judge
Liars,
Judy.
leakers, and liberals.
Leakers, liars, and liberals.
Liars, leakers, and liberals.
on the card! It's wrong on the sheet.
It is wrong on the card.
It's wrong on the card.
Not your fault.
All right.
All right, thank you so much.
Congratulations on the book. I'm sure
Thank
it's
you.
going to do even better now.
Well, thank you.
Everyone go buy it.
News outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. They're not out to tell you the truth of what's happening. They're out to tell you the picture of the world that they represent. Media shapes your perceptions of the world around you. If you're not getting an accurate source of media, you're not going to have an accurate understanding of the world.
The mission of the Epic Times is to chase the truth,
To ground all statements in facts and prevent people from being misled.
This isn't just a mission of the paper.
It's a mission of those involved in it. It's something we truly believe in.
The Epic Times is independent.
We're not controlled by any special interests, and we never will be. They don't tell you what you can and can't cover. They say prove it and you can publish it. Corruption has been allowed to exist in this country because the people we depend on to expose it are the ones involved in it. The Epic Times is a non-partisan media. That means we don't stand for any political party. Our values are truth. One of the foundations of a free republic is an honest media. Without knowing the truth of a situation, without understanding the backgrounds of individuals, without knowing what they really stand for, what they're really doing, you're not going to be able to vote. You're not going to be able to make the decisions that this country depends on us to make. You can't have a free republic without an honest media.
And the Epic Times tries to fill that role.
You can see the cameras can, and Hollywood can whiz bang and fake anything. So as Judge Janine explained right off the bat, what you didn't see, they just they put her book up there, liars, I can't even remember, liberals and liberals. But and Whoopi stormed off the stage, and then you heard what she said. But you never saw that, and you never heard that, and everything. That's what happens, and again, there is no fair, there is no balance on these shows. It's the narrative, and if you don't know what the narrative, and you believe the narrative, then it's what else could you believe? Because that's all they tell you, and it's intertwined in the culture in our movies and our TV shows. It's indoctrination on the grandest scale ever. On the grandest scale of indoctrination, this doesn't get any worse than this. Okay, so that's it, Judge Janine. So the next show we're going to get into is the census, which I thought was pretty interesting. They interviewed Rush Limbaugh, and he raised the question, what's the big issue? as he says, it's not putting the question whether you're an illegal alien or whether you're a citizen on the census. It's who took it off in the first place. Well, it was Barack Obama in 2010. And guess what? The Republicans, they didn't say a word. In fact, what Rush Limbaugh said, the Republican response was they just snored through it. They just nothing. But if a Republican looks the wrong way, the establishment and the Democrats just are relentless, as you'll see. So, without further ado, hey, that's my 2 minutes. We'll go to the rush in the census.
All right, as you can see right here, we are joined by the king of radio, Rush Limbaugh, joins us from his southern command post down in Palm Beach, Florida. Rush, good morning to you.
Good morning.
How's everybody? Great to be with you guys. It's really an honor, really a privilege, really a pleasure. Could not go to sleep last night. So excited to be here today. And now the time has arrived.
It has indeed. Rush, we're going to talk about your Betsy Ross T-shirt. That is, it's shocking the number of people. There it is, right there. That's the reason.
There it is.
We're going to talk about that in a couple of minutes. But first, what did you make of the president yesterday? Seeing the writing on the wall, it would be a protracted legal fight. They're already printing up the census. He decided to essentially ask all the government agencies to send all the data about citizens and non-citizens to the Commerce Department, and they will try to figure out how many citizens we have in the country.
I think everybody is looking at this in the wrong way. It's a testament, too, by the way, to the power of people who write the narrative every day. I call it the Washington soap opera, and I firmly believe it's the media that's running the Democrat Party today, not the other way around. The real controversy here is who took the citizenship question off of the census and why? Why is the controversy wanting to know who among us happens to be a citizen and who isn't? Why is that controversial? It would seem to me that this kind of attention should have been asked when somebody in the Obama regime decided to get rid of it, because we all know why. They don't want non-citizens to be invisible. They want them, or they do want them to be invisible. They don't want them to be counted as non-citizens for a political purpose. All of this, everything the left does, is political, and they couch it in compassion and concern and not wanting to target or single out anybody. My problem with all of this is that the American left today seems to have one major problem that is guiding every agenda item they have, and that is they don't like this country. They don't like this country as founded. They don't like this country's place in the world, and so they want to diminish us. They're too afraid of American superpower, American exceptionalism. But this idea of who's a citizen and who isn't, why did that question get taken off? That's where everybody's focus should have been. And I'll put this on the Republicans. Look at the way things happen. Obama takes the question off, the Republicans do what? Say nothing. Then the Democrats get back, and we want to put it back on President Trump because it's common sense. Put it back on. The Democrats fight, propose, oppose, make it hell on earth to try to get this done. And this is a great illustration of the difference in the two parties and how they operate politically. I think it's outrageous that the desire to know who here is a citizen is controversial.
Well, I don't know exactly when they did stop putting it on, but that certainly is what a lot of people are talking about.
2010 when President Obama, it's been on there from 1870 to 2010. Rush, will you elaborate a little bit?
Exactly my point. Exactly my point. The controversy, who took it off and why. Look, we know the answer to this. It just needs to be explained to people. As far as people are concerned, wanting to find out who's here is the suspicious thing. Wanting to find out who among us is a citizen is now the suspicious or controversial thing. This is 180 degrees out of phase. It's wrong. And I applaud the president for trying to get this done. And I think by hook or by crook, he actually will get it done. He's focusing everybody's attention on it, which is the first thing you have to do to affect positive change.
Will you elaborate on how exactly this would affect elections? Why don't the Democrats want this on the census report? You said it's political. Will you elaborate on that?
Well, it's ultimately they want these people to be able to vote. The reason the Democrats want open borders, look, there's a lot going on with this. The first thing behind this is a globalist movement to eliminate the whole concept of citizenship. And look, I know that some of this is going to sound strange, but it really isn't. This is happening. They want to replace the concept of citizenship with residence. And these are global elites who want to manage the world and control as much of the population as they can. And the first thing you do, if you really want to do that, is get rid of this concept that people are citizens of different countries. You replace that concept with residence. Now you bring it to this country specifically. The Democrats here want open borders. They want as many people crossing the border as possible. Multiple reasons. One is they need a permanent underclass. The Democrat Party is a party that the worst thing can happen to it is for people to become self-reliant, for people to be able to produce for themselves. They need people constantly in need, dependent. They need to create as many victims as they can, people hopeless, thinking the game is rigged. They have no chance because the deck is stacked against them. The Democrats are going to pave the way for them, going to protect them. And so they need as many of these people as they can get, people with no chance, no hope, and they become the champion. They need these people. They want them to vote. Right now, you have to be a citizen to vote, except in California. They want non-citizens to vote there. They're trying to make that happen. Keep an eye on California. It's the model for what the left wants the entire country to become. But the whole question about politics here, Ainsley, is citizens, non-citizens can't vote. The Democrats want these people to vote. And that's the underlying desire and energy behind this as far as they're concerned.
Rush, let me ask you about this division within the Democratic caucus between Speaker Pelosi and the significant four, led by Alexandria, the squad, that's right, led by Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, seemingly to play a race card with Pelosi. What do you make of this situation?
I think this is another example. Do you think at the end of the day, when we get to 2020, when we get to the campaign, the election, they're going to be disunified? They're not. Look, this is the young Turks in the party wanting to have some say-so. It's time-honored. There's nothing new going on here except Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez calling Pelosi a racist pig, essentially, which is humorous and funny because you don't normally see Democrats make that allegation about each other. But again, this is we're looking at this the wrong way. We think we got a great news story here of division in the Democrat Party. The real story with the Democrat Party, you guys, is their utter failure to get rid of Donald Trump. Their frustration is immeasurable, and this is what's driving everything they are doing. They thought they would get rid of Trump before he was inaugurated. Then they came up with the phony collusion thing. They've thrown every weapon they've got at getting rid of Donald Trump, and they have failed. And they are beyond their ability to deal with it. They normally target somebody to take out on the Republican side. They can do it in 2 weeks. They can do it in 6 months, however long they want to spend at it. They can't damage Trump, and it's driving them crazy. They are more irrational than ever. But at the end of the day, I think this is nothing more than something that is amusing to watch, but in terms of the effect it's going to have on the Democrat Party, negligible. The effect on the Democrat Party is going to be from Donald Trump and the Republicans because we're the opponents. When you get to the end of things here, Cortez is not a forever opponent of Pelosi, maybe internally, but not when it comes to the big agenda items. They're going to end up on the same page at the appropriate time. If they don't, if I'm wrong about this, I'd be glad to be wrong, but I don't think I am on this.
Well, let's see how it all turns out. In the meantime, Rush, I had heard, I've been reading that the Betsy Ross T-shirt that you came up with is flying off the shelves because it is benefiting Tunnels for Towers, which helps all sorts of families who have lost a member. There it is right there, law enforcement. This all got started before the 4th of July when Nike announced they were going to put the Betsy Ross flag on some shoes, and Colin Kaepernick expressed his displeasure with it. For a variety of reasons, and then you came out, and there's the shoe right there, and now you have put this particular flag on a T-shirt, and you wonder, what did Betsy Ross ever do to anybody?
You know, there's an overarching thing to this too, and you can look at the American women's World Soccer team as an illustration of this too. I'm not convinced, by the way, that Nike didn't dredge all this up as a PR stunt, but even if they did, here's the point. You have people, in the case of the soccer team, they want to be on the team, they want to represent America, they go out and perform, they achieve something magnificent. athletically. What do they do with the platform? Start trashing America. Start beating up on the country they claimed they wanted to represent. Kaepernick looks at a pair of tennis shoes. I don't like that flag. That flag stands for this and that. Nike's, okay, we'll cancel it. I'm tired of this with no pushback, Steve. There are millions of Americans who do not respect and do not think it's cool to constantly trash America and blame America when the people doing it have become incredibly wealthy. They've had ever and never-ending opportunities. They have had more opportunity than anybody in the world over, and they still persist in wanting to trash and criticize and blame America. And some of us are just fed up with it. So I went to my wife when the Nike thing happened. I said, how quickly could we turn a t-shirt around that featured Betsy Ross, stand up for Betsy Ross, to give people a vehicle to push back? Because there are a lot of people out there that feel a little powerless. They're as livid about this as I am, but what can they do about it? So we've given them an opportunity. We partnered with Tunnel to Towers on this to make sure people knew this was not a pursuit of profit on the part of me or my organization or my program. We do everything here. We fulfill them, we order them, we design them, we sell them. In 4 days this week, it's the largest selling item that we have ever had.
Wow.
It's the single greatest revenue generating item we've ever had in the RushLimbaugh.com store. People have just glommed onto this, I like to say, like nothing else that we've ever offered. It's really been fulfilling because people want the opportunity to push back, if nothing else, for self-satisfaction about this, because it's getting tiresome. It's getting tiresome to listen to a never-ending parade of people on the left rip this country, criticize this country, blame this country, and when none of what they're saying is applicable. This is not the land of grievance. This is the land of opportunity. This is the land of wealth and prosperity like nowhere has ever been in American or world history, and we're tired of it. And so this was just a simple little way for people to push back and benefit a charity that does great things for law enforcement, first responders, military, and people who suffered greatly at 9/11.
Rush, thank you for remembering all of them and doing this.
That's right. And I heard Rush say that there are a bunch of websites that are selling bootleg, fake Rush Limbaugh material.
You know how many there is? At the end of the day yesterday were 70 knockoffs. 70 different people trying to make customers believe they're selling my... 70. I mean, can you believe how popular this thing has become? That's one of the great illustrators. No, our legal department's on these people. You have no fear about it. No. But they're trying to sell it as though it's official. As though it's actually got my signature on.
And the only place to get the official one to help Tunnel for Towers is RushLimbaughShowStore.com.
Right.
Thanks, Rush.
Right.
Thank you, Rush.
Or you can go just to the website and check on the store tab.
Okay. And that's
thank you guys very much.
Okay, welcome back. So as you can see, there's just so many issues that are going on and on and on and on that you're not getting the full story about. If you can see what's reported on Fox News, which ain't the greatest station, but we really need to focus in on what's going on. They're just clamping down on anything that's conservative, that's not narrative, and it's going to be gone away. As you heard David Morrison in the hashtag Walkaway, he's got kicked off of Facebook and everything else. They censor any conservative speak, and so now he's gone to YouTube, and we'll see how YouTube works out, and that's where this show basically resides with the Damas cable. Okay, so at any rate, that was Rush's story. Our next one coming up will be, what is our next clip? Yeah, we got all the Reagan clips coming up, and it's just to show you the difference between, presidential styles. I know that this was all accumulated before Trump was president, but Ronald Reagan, he was a conservative, and they demeaned him beyond any recognition. If you listen to what the narrative and the mainstream media, how they remember Reagan, nothing as to what really happened. But he was the one who tore down the wall, called him the evil empire, and we need to be a tough nation, tough love, and tough love. So that's So we'll look at that to see, you know, can we be a little bit less polarizing and a little less caustic? And, you know, at least Ronald Reagan was under the same attack and assault that Donald Trump is, but he made it a little lighthearted. So let's take a look at some lighthearted Ronald Reagan.
President, in talking about the continuing recession tonight, you have blamed mistakes of the past, and you blamed the Congress. Does any of the blame belong to you?
Yes, because for many years I was a Democrat. I've been told that this is all off the record and that the cameras are all off. Is that right? Huh? I was told that because I've been waiting years to do this. I have to interrupt right here and tell you that in one of my visits, I won't name him, I don't want to embarrass him, but one of the heads of state that I met with on this visit, he gave me one while I was on the way. Told me the story about the two fellows in the Soviet Union who were walking down the street, and the one of them says, "Have we really achieved full communism? Is this it? Is this now full communism?" And the other one said, "Oh, hell no, things are going to get a lot worse." He said that Castro was making a speech to a large assembly, and he was going on at great length, and then a voice out in the crowd said, "Peanuts, popcorn, Cracker Jack." And he went on speaking. And again the voice said, "Peanuts, popcorn, Cracker Jack." And about the fourth time this happened, he stopped in his regular speech. And he said, the next time he says that, he says, "I'm going to find out who he is and kick him all the way to Miami." And everybody in the crowd said, "Peanuts, popcorn, Cracker Jack." The Soviet Union, who went out to one of those state collective farms, grabbed the first worker he came to, said, "How are the crops?" "Oh," he said, "the crops never have been better, just wonderful." He said, "How about potatoes?" "Oh," he said, "Comrade Commissar, if we could put the potatoes in one pile, they would reach the foot of God." And the commissar said, "This is the Soviet Union. There is no God." He said, "That's all right. There are no potatoes." Quotations about age comes from Thomas Jefferson. He said that we should never judge a president by his age, only by his work. And ever since he told me that, I've stopped worrying. Just to show you how youthful I am, I intend to campaign in all 13 states. President Washington began this tradition in 1790 after reminding the nation that the destiny of self-government and the preservation of the sacred fire of liberty is finally staked on the experiment entrusted to the hands of the American people. For our friends in the press who place a high premium on accuracy, let me say, I did not actually hear George Washington say that. I will not make age an issue of this campaign. I am not going to exploit, for political purposes, my opponent's youth and inexperience. An American and a Russian arguing about their two countries, and the American said, "Look, in my country I can walk into the Oval Office, I can pound the president's desk and say, 'Mr. President, I don't like the way you're running our country.'" And the Russian said, "I can do that." The American said, "You can?" He says, "Yes. I can go into the Kremlin to the General Secretary's office, pound his desk and say, 'Mr. General Secretary, I don't like the way President Reagan's running his country.'" An American dog and a Polish dog and a Russian dog, they were all having a visit, and the American dog was telling them about how things were in this country. He said, "You know, you bark and you bark long enough, and then somebody comes along and gives you some meat." And the Polish dog said, "What's meat?" The Russian dog says, "What's bark?" The story of a fellow who was running for office as a Republican, and he was in a rural area and it wasn't known to be Republican, and he stopped by a farm to do some campaigning. And when the farmer heard he was a Republican, his jaw dropped and he said, "Wait right here till I go get Ma. She's never seen a Republican before." So he got her, and the candidate looked around for a podium from which to give his speech, and the only thing he could find was a pile of that stuff that Bess Truman took 35 years trying to get Harry to call fertilizer. So he got up on the mound, and when they came back, he gave his speech. And at the end of it, the farmer said, "That's the first time I ever heard a Republican speech." And the candidate said, "That's the first time I've ever given a Republican speech from a Democratic platform." Things about having me. The lawyer said to him, while you were lying there at the scene of the accident, didn't someone come up to you and ask you how you were feeling, and didn't you answer that you never felt better in your life? Well, he said, yes, I guess I remember that happening. Well, later on redirect, another lawyer was asking the question, and he said, what were the circumstances when you gave that answer as to how you felt? Well, he said, I was lying there, and he said, a car came up, and a deputy sheriff got out. He said, my horse was neighing with pain and kicking, he had 2 broken legs. The deputy sheriff put the gun in his ear and put the horse out of his misery. He said, my dog had a broken back and was whining with pain, and he went over, did the same thing, put there and shot him. And then he came over to me and said, now, how are you feeling? Just down at the entrance of his building, there was an elderly lady selling pretzels, and every day he'd go by and he'd put a quarter down and never take a pretzel, go on in. He was being very charitable, and this went on for some time. And he came along one day, put down his quarter, started, and she took him by the arm. And he looked at her and he said, oh, you probably want to know why for this full year I've been leaving 25 cents on a plate and not taking a pretzel. And she said, no, I just wanted to tell you that pretzels are 35 cents now. This fellow they've nominated claims he's the new Thomas Jefferson. Well, let me tell you something. I knew Thomas Jefferson. He was a friend of mine. And Governor, you're no Thomas Jefferson. If I get home to California, I plan to lean back, kick up my feet, and take a long nap. Now, come to think of it, things won't be all that different after all.
Okay, folks, welcome back. So that was the last clip. Those were the Ronald Reagan. As you can see, he was a little bit more comical, kind of in line with Trump. And again, but their counter-narrative and the mainstream media, the culture, and Hollywood elites, won't give them a break at all. It's a shame to the extent of it's not even bias anymore. It's outright lying. It's lying. It is. So we got to call it what it is, and that's what it is. And they get away with it because they're the keepers of the keys. And well, we'll see what happens with the Mueller reports and all this other stuff going on. But I don't hold much hope because the deep state is deep, and these bureaucrats who are unelected just keep everything going, and they're the ones that are railing the most with everything that's going on. So again, I hope you enjoyed the show. There was a lot more clips and a lot less me. Hopefully that works out better. It certainly makes it easier for me. But if anyone has any comments, want to discuss a point or two about anything they've seen on the show, call me. I'll call the cable, and we'll give you 10-15 minutes. We can meet the cable station and talk about some issues. But other than that, election 2020 is right around the corner, and there's 20 Democrats, and they couldn't run. They're going so far to the socialist end of the spectrum. It's scary. I hope that the American people wake up, and like Russia's predicted, it may be a Reagan-Mondale landslide because the American people aren't going to put up with this craziness. So, good night. We'll see you in August. God bless you all. Thanks. Good night.
Well, today, YouTube basically reversed itself. It reversed itself by going after a guy with whom I am friends, Steven Crowder. So they say, well, Crowder hasn't violated any of our policies that require us to take down his stuff, but we will demonetize all his videos. You've seen them go after Laura Ingraham. You've seen them go after Tucker Carlson. You've seen them go after Sean Hannity. You've seen them go after Rush Limbaugh. They are intent on destroying any possibility of you receiving the information you want from shows like this one. They don't care about platforms existing where we can have conversations. And this is why I'm calling on you today. I need you to subscribe to our show over at dailywire.com. And I'd love to have you subscribe for a variety of reasons, including the fact we bring you really great material. But this is now an issue of whether the market is even available for ideas. You can help fight them. Free speech can only survive with your support. Please head over to dailywire.com right now. I'm really asking you sincerely, please subscribe. It helps us bring you the show, and it makes sure that when the left comes after us, just as they do every other conservative show, then we will continue to stand, because we're not going to kowtow to their politics. I'm not going to change my message. That's something I'm not going to do.
Well, thanks for watching Jim's Stable Topics July 2019. Hashtag Walkaway and other adventures. And there are a lot of adventures on the road to election 2020. So thanks for watching. We will put on a show in August. I have no idea what it'll be. Hopefully we'll change some of these pictures. But for now, Trump, make America great again. Election coming up. DCAT bag still on the journey. And always, you can't beat a pineapple drink. Thanks again for watching. See you next month.